My husband announced he was leaving me for my younger sister at our 5th anniversary dinner. "I'm in love with Lily," he said, swirling his $200 Cabernet like he was dropping the weather forecast. I smiled, placed my napkin gently on the table, and said, "Enjoy your meal." Then I walked out. What Bob and Lily didn't know was that I'd been quietly collecting evidence of their corporate espionage for months. 3 days later, when I handed everything over to the FBI, the SEC, and both our companies, they weren't just relationshipless. They were jobless, reputationless, and soon to be freedomless. The look on Bob's face when I strolled out of Seattle's most pretentious restaurant, where the entrees cost more than my first car payment, was almost worth the betrayal. Almost. He expected tears, screaming, a scene worthy of those reality shows he pretended to hate but secretly binged on his iPad. Instead, he got silence, and the gentle, deliberate click of my Louboutins, the ones he said were too expensive. But somehow, my sister could afford the same pair. Those red soles echoed against the marble flooring as I disappeared into the rainy Seattle night. "Eden, wait," he called after me. But I was already sliding into my Uber, silently thanking whatever cosmic force had nudged me to book a separate ride, just in case. 5 years of marriage, and he still didn't know me well enough to predict that I wouldn't cause a scene. 5 years, and he never realized that quiet doesn't mean weak. It means calculating. Did I know about the affair before the dinner? Honestly, yes and no. I suspected emotional cheating, but the corporate espionage, that blindsided me. Has anyone else ever discovered something worse than the original betrayal? Let me rewind the tape a bit. Bob and I met during law school. He was charming, ambitious, quick-witted, Starbucks in one hand, constitutional law textbook in the other, always wearing that half smile, like he knew something you didn't. I was immediately drawn to him. After graduation, I landed a position as in-house counsel at a tech company, while Bob took a management track at the same firm. Perfect power couple, our friends called us. My sister Lily was always the wild card of our family, 6 years younger, eternally in my shadow, at least according to our parents. While I was securing my future, she was swapping majors at university like most people change Instagram filters. When she finally graduated and landed a job at Best Gen Innovation Company, the biggest competitor in our city, I was genuinely happy for her. I even helped her prep for the interview. "You've always been the good one," she told me over brunch at a cafe 3 years ago. "I just want to find my own path, you know?" I remember nodding, thinking how mature she suddenly seemed. Our marriage wasn't perfect. Whose is? But we had our rhythm. Work hard during the week. Hike on weekends. Dinner with my parents once a month. Occasional date nights at the newest restaurants. Bob started traveling more for work about 8 months ago. San Francisco, Denver, Chicago. Always with his phone glued to his hand. Always with urgent work calls that pulled him away mid-conversation. I first noticed something was off when he came home from a Denver trip. Wearing a different cologne. Not dramatically different. Just not the Tom Ford I'd given him for Christmas. When I mentioned it, he claimed the airline lost his luggage and he had to buy toiletries at the hotel shop. Plausible. But my legal brain quietly filed it away. Then came the text notifications he'd quickly swipe away the moment I entered the room. The working late nights that, oddly enough, always aligned with Lily, suddenly being too busy for our weekly sister calls. The mysterious charges at restaurants I knew we hadn't visited together. I might not have connected the dots if I hadn't been assigned to tech company's new data security protocol team. As part of the audit, we discovered unusual access patterns to our secure servers. Someone with high-level clearance was downloading sensitive product roadmaps, financial projections, and acquisition plans during odd hours. The timing matched Bob's late nights at the office. Still, I needed proof before jumping to conclusions. So I did what any reasonable corporate attorney would do. I began documenting everything. I installed tracking software on our home computer, legal in our state when you own the device. I cross-referenced Bob's so-called business dinners with Lily's Instagram stories. The pieces started forming a picture I didn't want to see, but the final confirmation came one morning when I accidentally picked up Bob's company laptop instead of mine. His password? Lily's birthday with an exclamation point. Amateur. What I found made me physically sick. Emails to a generic account, attachments filled with tech companies' most confidential files, messages arranging drops with Lily, discussions about their future together once this pays off. My husband and my sister weren't just having an affair. They were selling tech companies' trade secrets through her to her company. The betrayal wasn't just personal. It was professional, familial, layered, doubled, tripled. I could have confronted them immediately. I could have marched straight into the CEO's office or called the FBI that day, but the lawyer in me knew better. I needed an airtight case, so for 2 months, I said nothing. I smiled through dinners while quietly collecting evidence. I kissed him goodbye in the mornings while backing up incriminating files. I chatted with Lily about her exciting projects at work while recording every word. Legal in our city. One-party consent. Which brings us to our anniversary dinner. When Bob suggested Camless, I should have known something was up. He usually complained about their pretentious small portions, but I agreed, thinking it might be the perfect place to confront him with what I knew. I never got the chance. He dropped his bomb first. So there we were, seated at this impossibly elegant place overlooking the lake, the skyline twinkling like nothing was wrong with the world. I'd spent 2 hours getting ready, slipped into that black Diane von Furstenberg dress he'd always loved, applied my makeup just the way he preferred, natural but enhanced. Whatever that meant. My evidence folder was downloaded to my phone, ready for the confrontation I'd rehearsed a dozen times in my head. The waiter had just brought out our appetizers, $32 foie gras, that Bob insisted on ordering, despite knowing I found it ethically questionable. That's when he cleared his throat and reached for my hand across the table. "Eden," he said, his voice carrying that practiced sincerity I'd once found endearing in courtroom simulations. "We need to talk." I braced myself, half thinking he'd sensed what I knew. Instead, he dropped a bombshell I hadn't prepared for. "I'm leaving you." He maintained eye contact. Probably some tactic from that $5,000 negotiation workshop his company sent him to last year. "I've fallen in love with someone else." I sat perfectly still, my legal training snapping into place. Never react immediately. Assess all information before responding. "It just happened," he continued, trying to fill my silence with soft-edged justifications. "We tried to fight it, but some connections are just undeniable." "Who?" I asked, though I already knew. I needed him to say it. He took a large sip of his wine, probably for courage. "Lily." Even expecting it, hearing my sister's name felt like being doused in ice water. The restaurant sounds faded into a distant hum as he kept talking. "She understands me in ways you never could. We're more aligned in what we want from life." He actually had the audacity to look sympathetic. "You're so focused on your career, Eden. Always have been." That's when I saw his tells, the slight twitch in his left eye, the way he kept adjusting his watch. Bob wasn't just leaving me. He was lying about why. This wasn't about love or connection. This was about the $2 million that Lily's company had quietly funneled into an offshore account I'd uncovered just last week. "How long?" I asked, my voice steady. "A few months," he admitted, as if it were some kind of consolation. "We're going to wait a respectable amount of time before going public. We don't want to hurt you more than necessary." "How considerate." "There's more," he said, reaching for his phone. "Lily wanted to be here, but we thought that might be too much. She's on standby, though, for closure." He turned his phone toward me. Lily's face appeared on FaceTime, wearing the earrings I'd given her for her birthday. She looked nervous, but determined. "I'm so sorry, Etta," she said, using my childhood nickname like she had any right to it anymore. "We never meant for this to happen." In that moment, staring at their guilty faces, something crystallized in me. They had no idea what I knew. They thought this was just about an affair. They were sitting there, waiting for me to fall apart. To scream about sisterly betrayal and broken vows. They had no clue that I'd already forwarded every shred of evidence of their corporate espionage to my private email, that I'd documented every file transfer, every late-night meeting, every suspicious bank deposit. That while they were planning their escape from my life, I was building their entrance into a federal investigation. I smiled. "I see," I said calmly, folding my napkin with care. "Well, I wish you both happiness." Their faces twisted in confusion. This wasn't the script they'd rehearsed. "You're not upset?" Bob asked, suspicion flickering into his voice. "I'm many things right now, Bob, but I've never been one for public scenes." I stood up, smoothing my dress. "Enjoy your meal. I believe I've lost my appetite. Eden, wait." Lily called from the phone. "No," I said, letting a sliver of steel cut through my words. "I don't think I will." And with that, I walked out, head high, nodding politely to the maître d', who looked just concerned enough at my solo departure. Once outside, I took my first full breath in what felt like hours. In my Uber home, I blocked both their numbers. Clean cuts, no room for second thoughts, and began executing the plan I'd prepared, just in case tonight played out exactly as it had. First, I emailed tech company's CEO requesting an urgent meeting for the following morning. Then, I organized the final pieces of evidence into a comprehensive, time-stamped, legally sound report. Finally, I forwarded everything to my contact at the FBI's white-collar crime division, Special Agent Tamara, who had graduated a year behind me at law school. That night, I slept surprisingly well for someone whose personal life had just gone up in flames. Perhaps because I knew exactly what was coming next. The following morning, I walked into tech company's headquarters earlier than usual, presentation in hand, resolve hardened. CEO Jaden met me in the conference room, concern written plainly across his face. "Eden, your email said this was urgent. Are you okay?" "No, Jaden, I'm not. But tech company won't be either if we don't act quickly." I connected my laptop to the projector. "I've discovered a significant data breach. Over the next hour, I laid it all out. Access logs showing Bob's CAC credentials downloading confidential files, emails between anonymous burner accounts coordinating the transfers, bank records showing offshore payments from shell corporations tied to my sister's employer." "Are you certain?" Jaden asked, his face ashen. "Absolutely," I said, clicking to the final slide. "And there's one more thing you should know." I took a breath. "The employee facilitating this breach is Lily, my sister." His eyes widened, the pieces clicking together in real time. "Eden, I don't know what to say." "This is personal and professional," I finished for him. "I've already contacted the FBI. They'll want to speak with you, but I wanted tech company to be prepared first." Jaden sat silent for a moment, then straightened. "What do you need from us?" "Full cooperation with the investigation." I hesitated, then pressed on. "And I want to lead our internal response team. I found the breach. I want to help fix it." He nodded, slowly but firmly. "Absolutely. And Bob should be arriving in about 30 minutes. I suggest having security escort him directly to this room." What followed was a blur of motion. Security officers, HR reps, tech company's full legal team assembling with quiet urgency. And finally, Bob's bewildered face as he was ushered into what had become an impromptu tribunal. "What's going on?" he demanded, confusion hardening into suspicion. Then he saw me. "Eden, what is this?" I remained seated, hands folded, as Jaden calmly explained that Bob was being suspended pending an internal investigation for corporate espionage. The color drained from his face, his confidence cracking visibly. "You don't understand," he sputtered. "This is personal. She's upset about me sleeping with her sister." I finally spoke. "Yes, that's true. But this isn't about that, Bob. This is about you selling tech companies' confidential information to our competitors. That's what the FBI will be here to discuss in approximately..." I glanced at my watch. 20 minutes. His expression contorted from confusion to sheer terror. "FBI? Eden, you can't be serious. This is insane." "Is it?" I tapped the screen, pulling up the evidence. "Is this insane too?" His emails. The server logs. The offshore account. He scrambled, of course. Claimed the evidence was doctored. Accused me of framing him out of jealousy. No one believed him. By noon, he was escorted out of the building. Personal items in a cardboard box. Badge deactivated. Later that afternoon, I got a panicked call from my mother. Lily had been taken in for questioning by federal agents at her office. Her company's PR team had already issued a statement distancing themselves from her alleged actions. I almost felt sorry for them both. Almost. People keep asking if I was afraid of retaliation. Honestly, yes. The first night after everything went public, I slept with a chair braced under the doorknob. Have I spoken to my parents since? We're working through it. Lily was always their favorite. They're struggling to process what happened. Has anyone else had to rebuild family ties after a betrayal like this? The fallout was swift, brutal, like twin avalanches tearing through everything in their path. By day 2, both Bob and Lily were fired. Her company issued a press release vehemently denying prior knowledge of her actions and pledging full cooperation with authorities. Their stock plummeted 14% in one day. Tech company weathered the blow slightly better. Our stock dipped 8% but stabilized after we announced new security protocols. Bob called me 17 times from burner numbers. left a voicemail that careened between apologies and veiled threats. I forwarded it to my attorney without listening to the end. Lily sent a 5-page email, said Bob manipulated her, that she'd always lived in my shadow, that this was her moment to finally prove herself. She claimed she hadn't understood the legal implications. I almost laughed at that part. She dated a corporate compliance officer for 2 years. She knew exactly what industrial espionage was. My parents were devastated. My mother sobbed on the phone. How did this happen? How did we go so wrong that one of you would sleep with the other's husband? How will the family survive this scandal? My father was quieter. His disappointment hung heavy in every long pause. We raised you both better than this, he finally said. You raised me better than this, I corrected gently. I didn't have an affair. I didn't commit federal crimes. He had no response. By day 3, formal charges were filed. The evidence was airtight. Bob and Lily were facing up to 15 years each for theft of trade secrets, wire fraud, and conspiracy. Bail, $500,000 each. Their public personas crumbled like paper castles. Bob's inflated LinkedIn profile became a ghost town. Lily's Instagram, once filled with curated ambition, vanished entirely. Reporters called. Former friends texted. Distant relatives surfaced with unsolicited opinions. I ignored them all, focused on tech company's internal investigation and on healing. At the end of that week, Jaden called me into his office. I expected a thank you, maybe a bonus. What I got was a promotion. We're creating a new position, he said. Chief Information Security Officer, overseeing both legal and technical safeguards. The board agrees, you're the one. The salary bump was generous. The authority greater. The validation, unmatched. That weekend, I moved out of the house Bob and I once shared. I took only what was unquestionably mine, left behind the wedding photos, the trinkets, the life built on betrayal. I found a high-rise in the city, floor-to-ceiling windows, views that made me feel like I could finally breathe. Sunday night, a text from an unknown number. Visiting hours are Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 to 4 p.m. If you want to see your sister, she could use a friendly face. It was Mom. I didn't reply. 6 months later, I'm in a courtroom watching Bob and Lily accept plea deals. 5 years with parole possible after 3. Her company settled quietly with tech company, rumored to be north of $50 million. My new role came with stock options that have already doubled. Bob looks older, defeated. That smug grin gone. When our eyes meet, he looks away. Lily, on the other hand, stares directly at me, expression unreadable. Part of me wonders if she's scripting her redemption arc already. The memoir, the documentary, the twisted version of how she was seduced into corporate crime. My parents sit across the aisle. They've chosen to support her through the trial. We talk now. Occasionally, stiff, surface-level conversations about nothing real. Mom suggests therapy. I suggest reality. As the judge reads the sentencing, I feel no triumph, no rage, no sorrow, just certainty. I did what was necessary. I did what was right. The justice system will handle their punishment. Life will handle the rest. I've started seeing someone. A cybersecurity expert I met during the system overhaul. He laughs at my terrible tech puns. Doesn't flinch when I triple-check device settings. Last week, he asked if I wanted to meet his family. I said yes, though trust doesn't come easy anymore. Maybe it shouldn't. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarm. I say nothing. Instead, I walk to Market, buy myself a wildly unnecessary bouquet of flowers, and bring them back to my apartment. Fortress-grade security, skyline views, and peace. Some nights, I wake up replaying the signs I missed. Other nights, I sleep soundly. Because while they thought that anniversary dinner was the end of our story, it was really just the beginning of mine.